Okay, well this one's Rocroi, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing terribly, but that's just as per course. And something else that's part of the course is back on the last one, we do Nordlingen, I screwed up the demoralization rules. I noticed that because I read the demoralization rules for this one and said, wow, that sounds kind of like the ones from the last one, but totally different. Apparently the way the demoralization was supposed to work on the last one, and will work on this one, is that you keep a running total of all the points, and that these are, say the Imperialist Cav would have broken at 100, but then the infantry doesn't become demoralized till 125. And likewise the Swedes are going to break in 2 different sets. And that probably meant that, well, my armies, at least one of them probably was demoralized before the end of the game. Oh well, I don't think it's anything terrible. Okay, so for this one, this is France's real entry onto the military scene. Unfortunately, I haven't played anything on this battle before. I've got the musket and pike under the lily banners, which has this battle along with several other of the French battles of this era. But, well, so I have fairly limited knowledge, and I didn't even really read the historical notes yet. I meant to do it beforehand. Just skim them. Yeah, there's not a whole lot here about location. But the armies have changed a little bit by this point. So one of the things you'll notice is that everyone has charge capability. So all Cav are going to be charge capable at this point in the wars. I mean, we're fairly late here, 1643. Other than that, well, deployment, things are screwed up again. We got 4 6s here with 3 6s in them. I have no idea whether or not, which way they're supposed to go, and I don't really care too much. I'm going with the counters as written, but there are a lot of them now that are wrong apparently. And my guess is the counters are what are wrong in general, rather than, say, the guy who bought it from losing a piece in one of the other ones or anything else. But I don't feel like fixing the counters. So Cav charge in this one is a little bit different in that the Cav is doubled attacking disordered infantry, great, or a demoralized infantry, demoralized army's infantry. And that's a little different from all the other rules. And basically they went into this later in the designer's notes with the, yeah, we all kind of decided we wanted our own little Cav rules. And they're almost all exactly the same, but with little tweaks here and there. I don't know how much they really reflect differences, because they did end up almost exactly the same. They could have been done with a 1-line difference with most of this covered. Because most of it is boilerplate. There's an optional rule for Beck's arrival. Apparently the whole battle was affected by a Spanish force that is not represented by pieces on the board. And starting on, let's see, and they never showed up until after the battle. Starting on turn 9, the Spaniard starts rolling, and on a 5 or a 6, some forces show up. On a 5, it's a limited force, and there are no pieces for this. A 1/6 leader, a 4/6, and 6/6 Cav, and on a 6 you get a couple of infantry, and those Cav and the leader. Once you get that die roll, you'll get no additional forces. This is an optional rule, and it involves dredging units out of the dead pile or making new units and adding them to the game. I'm going to try playing with it, probably dredging units out of the dead pile, and write a little note to myself. They also have this increased leader effects optional role. This one is to expand the leader counter's area of effectiveness by a number of hexes equal to the leadership value. This is for either combat or disruption removal. the leader will be limited to only adding his leadership to one combat. And if he's attacked, he must add his leadership value to the combat, to the hex that he's being attacked in. Now, I guess the purpose of this is to indicate a somewhat less personal leadership situation. For example, in damned if I can remember the battle. My brain is just failing here. What, Lutzen? Gustavus has to be in with the units to get his bonus, so there's a good reason to maybe get him killed. Well, in this you have at least one very good leader. Well, de Mellos is not at all bad, but the French have somebody who I cannot pronounce, de Enghien. I don't even want to go any further than that. Who will greatly benefit from being able to throw his 3 strength points into something at a 3 hex radius. Apparently there were thoughts of a completely different command system for this scenario. And this is kind of one of the problems with these quad games. I'm glad they put their foot down and said, no, there's not room for that. Because, you know, the games, part of the beauty of the games is, hey, here's one set of rules. Let's not go off and rewrite the Cav rules for every battle. It's fine if you have to change it by one line or two. That was a bad enough effect that they essentially rewrite it in every rule book, in every scenario, with slightly different rules that could have been handled in a single paragraph to say, you know, what the differences are between them and the base rule. But rewriting the whole command system, this would have involved a pulsed movement with units not in command not being able to move, probably would have required more leader counters, and just really changed the whole game. And here we have demoralization levels. So this is working the way that, my brain is just absolutely not working today, Nordlingen, I tried looking but I couldn't find it, were supposed to work, which is that the Spanish break, their cav breaks at 100, the Italians, Germans, and Burgundian, and Beck if he's on the board, breaks when the Spanish get to 110, Spanish and Walloon infantry once it hits 125, and likewise with the French infantry have a low breaking point, but the Cav and the Special Royal Guard or Royal Players or whatever, Royal, I have no idea, break at a little higher level. If demoralization happens, I think it's standard rules on this. Looks like it. My eyes aren't working anymore. Victory conditions, again, you know, a whole slew of information here, all in paragraph forms. A victory point for each strength point eliminated. 2 for demoralized enemy infantry. 5 for artillery this time. 15 for taking out a category of the French army. 20 if it's the whole French army. 20 if you kill their Dengien. 10 for Gassion. And 5 for their other 2 leaders. And the French get 1 for each enemy strength point, except demoralized infantry, 2 for demoralized infantry. So again, we got to keep track of it. Once the army demoralizes, the points change. You know, I wish they had kind of standardized the victory point system too, to tell you the truth. 5 for artillery. Obviously, some things like artillery become less valuable, perhaps, in this era. So it would almost make sense to reduce it. 15 for demoralizing 1 or 2 categories of the Spanish army. 25 for the whole army. 15 for de Mellos. 10 for Yenborg. And 5 for each of the others. And then you have a victory margin based on total victory points. Position-wise, it's a pretty straightforward. Both armies are just standing there waiting to fight. Nice set-piece battle. The Spaniards have 1, 2, 3 artillery, it looks like. Yeah. And the French, and I didn't see a problem with the artillery in this one, have 1, 2, 3, maybe, I don't know. It's really hard to find your artillery in this game. Maybe they only have 2. I don't know. I see only about 2. Once you find them all and identify them, it's fairly easy to remember them. But you know, the first time you're after you set up and you wander away for a little bit and come back, it's hard to remember where they are. All right. So the French are moving first. I figure they have to kind of attack. They're in something of a time bind because of the potential of that reinforcement. Without that, you kind of feel like, well, who should move? We can just plink at each other with artillery for all I care. Reading over the historical notes, what's his name? Dengian. That's Conde. So that's why I'm not familiar with the name. It's just under a different. It's under his title. And let's see. The relief of a siege. Well, we'll see how it plays out. I just wanted to come in. I don't remember. I thought I had something else to say, but I'm so blurred. I mean, this trip that I have upcoming is stressing me completely. It's made me almost useless at work. I shouldn't be talking about that now. All right, onward. I know what the other thing I was going to mention was the movement point allowances for these units. 2 for the Spaniards and 3 for the French. Now the French supposedly are on the new modern style of military unit, while the Spaniards are obviously still at the tercios. This is really kind of the final sign that they're pretty much not an effective fighting force anymore. The tercios is no longer an effective tactical system. So anyway, historically, I guess what happened was, let's see, the French right wing charge routs the Cav in the front. On the left wing, however, the Cav didn't fare so well. Their attack met and broken by the Spanish cavalry. Well, if you look at the French troops over here on the left wing, they're weak. The Spanish are fairly equally balanced. The French right is quite strong. I see no reason to expose my weaker flank. I'm going to march forward with that single stronger flank and attack with that. Give me a local advantage. I'm keeping my formation together. Although actually I moved some units, maybe I couldn't, but oh no, with Conde I can do that. So I'll keep moving some of these there. All right, now we'll move to the Spanish side, and I've stripped some strength off of the center and off of the left flank, so it may be up to the Spanish to want to launch an attack as well at the same time to give themselves some control. And there's a lot of space to cover on this map, just in terms of a lot of room but distance between the two armies, which we haven't seen much in this system. The Spanish have pushed forward their own wing. The wing here, I didn't even move it forward at all. The French were careful to be 7 hexes away, which means the Spaniards can move forward if they want it, but they wouldn't be able to actually reach and get that first blow in. They're weaker, so they probably wouldn't want to, but there's an advantage in this game to getting the first strike in, as far as I'm concerned. Nothing to do with anything except being able to align, you know, those 2-to-1 odds a little bit more to your liking, because you're the guy who's moving. French advance continues in force, quite a bit of force. I've got 2 of my main leaders, or my 2 best leaders there. The remainder here, I'm anchoring my way back against the woods there. So far, the artillery has not done anything. The Spaniards are a little bit more fortunate. First of all, coming close to the guns means that the French are going to take hits. I also managed to hit one of their big infantry units back here. Decided to pull back and form a single solid line. That's harder to kind of get any kind of purchase against. As you can see, my attack managed to hit a corner, which is a little bit of a stronger position. Of course, this is kind of this weird little clump that can be counterattacked, and that's something the French are going to have to consider doing. And turn 3 opens up with the French hitting rather hard along here. You can see they got some successes. A couple 2-to-1 attacks, those both worked out pretty well. They didn't pay any prices along there. Up here, well, not so good, but they were only doing a limited attack, and they got an exchange over there. The Imperials are playing kind of cautiously. Whoa! Yeah, pushed it the wrong way. Making attacks here. We got a single unit that we managed to kill there, a 4-point cav, and elsewhere, you know, an exchange up there. Actually, I think the exchange went this way, and these guys whacked this one. Over here, well, a number of attacks managed to take on one of those big cav units, which is the kind of thing that could break through my line pretty easily, and got a lucky shot here, or a lucky attack there. It was a artillery fire up here. I have not rolled my recovery rolls yet. French continue to refuse an anchor to the woods there, pushing back. They made a little attack up here, managed to kill a 3-point Spanish unit. Over here things didn't go too well. Lots and lots of 1-to-1 attacks. Mainly the hopes of killing off some units, also kind of weakening things because they have this numerical superiority, they think, on this front. Moving slowly forward with a screen of cav and the heavy infantry. The heavy infantry is close enough that it can slam in, so I can slide the cav kind of out of the way if need be, or whatever, but be able to launch a number of attacks on there. There's a danger because there's a lot of heavy units here, so if I engage here, this can just swing shut like a trap and do a lot of damage to the French, I think. So I don't know how wise the French move is. I'm hoping to crack this more before I bring those heavies in, but that doesn't seem to be getting the purchase. And as we push forward, turn 5, things are not going well for this French attack. Launched well, okay. I managed to, you can see they've got a significant amount of cav that have been hit. Some down here, I guess. We hit the one up here. Over here, though, there's one really kind of scary thing for the Imperials. They made some attacks and with some success, no question. In fact, that big 6 there came from over here, taking this out with it. But this big Imperial, I pushed a bunch of infantry forward with the attempt to get a really good odds attack on that cav. Well, there's always a chance. That was only 5-to-1. If it was 6-to-1, I'd be safe, but 5-to-1 wasn't quite good enough. I couldn't move my biggest, heaviest units up in place. Now this guy's at risk, and that could be the beginning of some problems for the Imperials, because there are a lot of French heavy units that can move into play there and you know, get in the line there. All right, the Swedes are beginning, or the French are beginning to make some good ground. Over here they kind of got stalemated. They made a couple 2-to-1 attacks that didn't do any good, but here they got kind of a bonus. Planning on kind of damaging a lot of the Spanish army rather than trying to eliminate it right off. Although they did schwack this unit and get themselves a few points off of that. And then over here, trying to prevent the attack. I'm forgetting to utilize that extended range military ability, like the extra 3 points there. It's just too hard to remember for me. Oh well. And the Spaniards are doing quite well on both fronts. Up here, you can see they've kind of paralyzed some of them French units. And then across the line here, all the heavy infantry have pushed forward. These are all just really light cav screen. But now they're kind of in the way, and it takes a little bit of effort, not a lot, to get them out of the way and bring the heavies up. With a couple of hurt units, though, it's possible to get 2-to-1 odds on some of these guys at least, which might be enough to keep cycling the damage in. The problem is the Imperials have been recovering some of their forces. I don't know if I rolled for that guy. I'm going to assume I did. I rolled for most of them. French losses were rising too high for me to continue that sort of all-out attack, so I started making more targeted attacks down here, working a little bit better. On this side, just trying to, throw my units in to defeat whatever this little cav attack is doing. The Spaniards don't have enough force to overrun this situation. All they're really doing is preventing me from detracting too much more or sending too much more towards the Imperial line. If the French could clear this, they could really just surge forward and maybe try to outflank on this side as well, because they will have then gotten rid of the kind of pesky cav over there. The anchor over here, well, it's not too different from the edge of the board anchor over here, so the terrain doesn't really make too much of a difference. All that really mattered was there was a preponderance of force for the French here. So now we go over to the Spanish. The Spanish counter, among other things, they managed to rally, but they counter here with a push to try to kill a French leader. That didn't work out well, but the push overall was okay, including assassinating a unit back here. Over here they pulled back, kept some pressure on, and killed themselves at least one unit that was here. Big infantry. Right now we're at 16, 20, 22, 38. I know the numbers don't even start until around 75 for the losses. It's much easier to just count one set of units for whether or not something's demoralized. But yeah, you can see the French are taking a lot more casualties than the Spaniards so far. And damn, I don't know if I moved my little turn marker forward. The French continue this sort of low-grade opportunity fighting on this front. Both sides are sort of engaging in this when they see something exposed, like a corner hanging out in this case, or this case, or here, or a reduced unit. This was able to destroy a reduced unit. They pick it off at this point. Earlier on, I think the French were trying to charge a little harder. Over here, we had seen the Spaniards trying to charge a little harder. They've given that up because they don't have the force to really smack through it all. Neither do the French over here. There's sort of this mutual asymmetry where the French right flank has hit the center and left flank of the Spaniards, and a Spanish right cavalry only flank is pinning down the center and left of the French. Of course, half the center of the French has gone over here, but both sides have less force on the offensive than they do on the both sides have less force on the offensive than their opponent has on the defensive position. And there's not a lot that I can do about that at this point. So, I could throw some Spaniards up here. I could curve around and try to smash this. And I had been thinking about that, but when I tried to gain some advantage, it didn't come about. And I don't want to screen my guns terribly. One thing that does happen, though, these guns are not at terribly good range. This guy's on the 3 to 5 range at best. This guy's out of range. So if I swing this over, I've still got shots over here all the way on the longest range. There's no maximum range in this game except for where the fog line of sight rules come in, where it's basically like 2 hexes or something. The guns are pretty much incapable except on straight up defense. All right, let's see what the Spaniards can do. I really think their best move is to swing that flank. But I don't know. You do that, you expose it, and maybe we get a combined battle again. And as we finish up the turn, See the Spaniards pulling back here. They remain lightly engaged, but mainly they're attempting to reform. Basically, they feel like this force has done a really good job of pinning a lot of French. It's cav, so it has some capability to, run around the corner. So it requires a fairly hefty length of a line to defend those guns when the attack's all the way over here on the flank. Over here, we pulled back on our left flank because we're seeing some serious strength along the French forces that didn't take any weakening, but hit hard in the center. Seeing some weak spots there, and also doing some one-to-one attacks like here or here that have actually panned out pretty well. Smacking in here with a drive, not the full force trying to swing around. I don't think I can. See, I don't want to screen my guns. I can get some fire over here by not doing that. Anything else I did, I could just kind of pile troops this way, which probably would have been a good idea because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If this were not a disorganized unit, now it was when I attacked, it could move here. The unit that was here was disorganized as well. So there wasn't really any room for the French to come squirming through there, but all right. Well, we're getting awfully close to a turn where we could see more Spanish reinforcements start coming in. And I think overall they're certainly doing quite well here. We got 26, 30, 42. Again, it takes about 75 to hit things, and almost nothing, 21 strikes against them. So this is not going well for the French. So the French continue to play an opportunistic game up here, but over here the opportunities were quite high, and they swung forward hard. I have to roll all the recovery rolls. You can see they knocked off a couple of units over here, and also did some damage to some of these other units that were in good shape otherwise, recovering for the Spaniards. They've got the Spaniards on the run over here, and if they can loosen this and send it over down into this area, they've got a fairly powerful wedge to hit what was the Spanish center. And now after the full turn, including the Spanish recovery and the French recovery that I did afterwards, launched a bunch of attacks from the Spaniards, some effective, some not. For example, this did not work out well for them. This wasn't a terribly good trade. Over here, I had a lower odds than I thought. I looked at this 25 to 12, but I forgot about, hey, I can throw in Conde for 3 more points, so that ends up only being a 1-to-1. Over here, weakened that kind of forward advance by the cab, but that's no big deal. Those can just pull back, and I can throw more bigger units in to continue the assault and keep making ground as well. Cav don't really matter too much. They can run away and reform and come back in. French have come out hard on their left flank now. They've pulled their center out off the cannons. Probably screening them for their next shot. They might be able to get one shot in down there, it looks like. I think I'll have to trace a line to see. But this guy's just not going to be able to hit anything. Back here, pulled back and shifted over towards their left. Finished off another unit, and we got a lot of dead here now. 12, 32, 35, 39, 42, 46. Still not in the range, but compared to 20, 30, 42, 46, it's now even, I think. But we've got the key roll. On a 5 or a 6, some additional Spaniards show up. And we got a 5. That looks like a 4, but it was a 5 over there. That means I have to figure out how to get some things. Now, I lost a leader, so that's a replacement that I can take. These others don't have to be, they're not replacements, they're new units. This means there will be no more re-rolls, or no more rolls here. I'm going to get a 6-6, a 4-6, I'm sorry, a 1-6 leader, a 4-6, and a 6-6 cav. So here's these two. I've got to make myself a 6-6 unit. I'm just going to use one of these guys. I could write on it, but I'll just try to remember that it's a 6-6. And they're going to show up where? Any hex between 0110 and 0118, which is going to be between the roads, basically. So some additional reinforcements, but not enough to turn the tide here. I think the French have kind of shifted things with the breakthrough here. This is going to cause some serious problems to the Spaniards. And the Spaniards surge forward over here and try to extricate themselves from here, but you can see they're in a lot of hurt there. Over here, they managed to smash some more units, and we're up above 60 losses for the French. Now, they need 82, and for the Spaniards, it's 100 before any morale effects start taking place. Here are the new units, and we got our Spider Cav. Yeah, I decided to draw one. And I've forgotten to roll my recoveries. Got a few of them over here. These guys are a +1. These guys are going to be a +1. He's not quite in range to get the +2. Remember, the rules keep changing, not in this scenario, but between the games of the system. So using the increased leader effectiveness, there's actually a radius to the rally. French clear away the remainder of the Spanish attack. There's still one little unit back here. And continue their shift to combine the armies. A little attack right here on the edge. Kind of sacrificing this unit. He's probably doomed, but he managed to rally, so he's not as doomed. It usually takes 2 hits to knock something out. Well, it takes 2 hits, but there's the defender eliminated possibility. So if you get a really high 4-1 or higher, you can conceivably knock out a unit. And that shouldn't be too hard. I could easily see 8 points going this way, but why bother? Why not just try to knock it down and swoop in and hit the flank here with a lot of strength? And that's kind of what I expect to see. I'm worried a little bit now on this flank because the French are coming in quite strong. Point-wise, I just counted these suckers up, and I don't remember what they had. 9, 19, 39, 42, 49, 53, 57. So a little behind in terms of total losses for the Spaniards. It's hard to tell where we are because, wait, this is one where everything counts 1 point, I think, except 2 points for units that are infantry that are destroyed after the army is demoralized. Hard to keep these things in mind, and I'm not too concerned about counting points. That's just not really the way I play. I like to look at the situation, and it's pretty obvious that this is a close battle. You can see, though, the mixture of the forces that have been lost here. A lot of cav on both sides. The infantry have taken less losses. I've mainly screened my guns. I still think I have a channel. I had one at the beginning of the turn coming through here for this gun. This gun's going to have a hard time. He may have opened one up coming down through here. Over here, well, the Spaniards have their guns largely screened, although I'm getting some close shots in right here from one, and then this one can make its choice as to what it wants to shoot. I did want to note the French had gotten their command when they wiped out the Spaniards, or when they started wiping them out last turn. They'd gotten their command kind of disorganized, where it was broken into little pieces. And part of what I had to do this turn was move units only 2 or 3 hexes based on the type of unit, because they only have half movement point allowance. But now I've kind of formed up so that we have a command here and a command here, and then a little loose guy there. Close up turn 10 with the Spanish just sweeping around the French right flank here. A little bit concentrated to hit. Not really concentrated. I'm building a command here and reorganizing mainly. But I sent 1 unit to hit that. That's sufficient. It'll force them to keep going back, and then I can keep chasing them if need be. But mainly, the big push was the heavy infantry just slamming all across this line. Mixed results. Where there were weak forces, I succeeded. Killed a couple of units here. One thing that did is That opens up this line so I can just charge right through and grab this gun. That's not an automatic bonus, though. Grabbing the gun doesn't help immediately. The Spaniards can then fall back, destroy that unit or whatever, and then the gun gets to fire at that point. So it's kind of a risky situation for the French to charge into there unless they have more that they can do. Just grabbing the gun isn't generally terribly effective. And this little guy recovered, which, you know, slows things down for the French. Even if this unit comes in, he can only get to there and makes an attack. He might get disabled by it's only a 2-to-1 attack. So that might kind of cause some issues, but not much. Now the French did choose to run up and grab that cannon, but mostly they... oh crap. They did a pullback turn, running away from the Spaniards. The reason being they have some units they had to rescue, and the Spanish line looked too solid. After the Spanish launch their attacks next turn, maybe there'll be more weaknesses. Running away everywhere. Covering the gun here, because we don't want to let the cav run up behind and seize our guns and start shooting us from behind. That would be a pretty unpleasant situation. Unfortunately, we're not seeing any recuperation really happening. I rolled for it, it just didn't happen this time. And as the Spaniards lunged forward again, they've got the French up to, I think, 86 points, which is only 4 away from the cav being demoralized. Which, of course, makes it more difficult to rally and stuff like that. You can see, though, the effort to do so has kind of broken the Imperial lines a bit. We've got a command that's organized here and one that's organized here. Well, 2 that are organized. 2 commanders, 1 command organized there. But a couple of little pieces over here. This thing's organized in terms of having appropriate leadership. What that means is next turn is going to be more difficult for the Spaniards to launch their attack. We've also opened ourselves up to artillery fire over here. And you can see some significant damage remaining on the Imperial side. Artillery fire coming from behind us as well. The French continue their slide towards their left flank. They've pretty much hooked it up at this point. A couple of quick kills in here help them make some recoveries back here, I think. They're in a dangerous position, though. Very soon they're going to go over that 90 mark. And that means, I believe, the cav, as I said. Oh, they're already over the 82, aren't they? Crap, I think I cheated. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Yeah, they were already over. I'm not going to reverse things. I'll let them get their bonuses for this turn. But they're demoralized, which means that they're not going to be able to rally their infantry anymore. I'm sure I rallied some infantry, but I don't know quite where. If there was any back here, this guy probably rallied. I'll leave it as it is, give them a slight edge here. For the Spaniards, they're at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 62, 65, 69. So they're in pretty strong shape. They have to get to 100 to break. Okay, so now the entire French army is broken. I killed another cav somewhere up here. I think they're over here. And for victory conditions, it's only infantry. Wait. No, that was the other battle. For this, it's only infantry that's doubled over here for losses. And I didn't kill any infantry since the demoralizations happened, so that's not really an issue. So that means we go, I guess, the last couple turns, and the French really are in trouble here. With a demoralized army, they're just not able to operate the same. And in fact, there are some special rules for this, aren't there, for demoralization? I don't remember. I thought there were special demoralization rules for this one. Maybe that's the other one. I don't know. Was that the previous game? They changed the demoralization effects. Yeah, they changed the effects in the previous one, but not in this one. But not significantly. Alright, so I assume it's about the same. Anyway, the French aren't going to be able to recover their infantry losses, and their cav are at a penalty to do so. And we took that gun back, by the way. The French pull back. They're pulling off the field. I haven't rolled my one recovery I'm allowed, which is here. It's at +2, so that it's actually a pretty good shot. But we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 72, 75, 78, 82 for the Spaniards. They have to hit 100 for any effect. So, you know, it looks like the Spaniards have the advantage here, and they're just going to keep pushing forward. The Spanish launch themselves up to attack Masson here and hit him in an exchange. And then up here they managed to crack this. These guys can run a little faster because they're demoralized now. So we'll move it to the last turn of the game. Looks like a French defeat, though. Some lucky artillery fire put the Spanish over 100, which means their cav is now disordered. That's not a big deal. In victory point terms, the whole army has to be demoralized. Well, demoralized. The whole army has to be demoralized before there's any victory point penalties. So, well, we'll keep pushing forward, but looks like there's not a lot of room for an attack. There really, I would say there actually doesn't seem to be any chance at all. Looking it over, I just do not see a viable lever for attacking for the Spaniards. They, you know, could get this guy around the back, but he's not going to do more than just damage a unit at best anyhow, and there's just too big a gap between the armies, so I'm going to call it right here. Point wise, well, let's see. We have no captured artillery. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 84, 86, 88, 94, it looks like, with no leaders in strength points. Anything else going on here? Army demoralization is another 15. Oh, sorry, make it 5 more. Actually, it does count points. Partial does count. I didn't kill any leaders. So for the French, what did we kill for stuff? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 75, 90, 97, 101. I don't know what leader I killed. I think it's Yenborg. I forgot to write him down. But he is probably... Oh no, he's a 10-pointer. So we'll put 10 there. And we got a partial demoralization here. Any 1 or 2 unit categories is worth 15. So actually the Spanish lost this battle 126 to 114. I wouldn't have counted on that. It looked like the French lost it, but it was a nice close fought battle. And I think one that shows the system nicely. I don't like the fact that every game seems to tweak with rules that maybe don't feel like they terribly needed tweaking with, for whatever reason. You got a bunch of different designers here. A lot of them people I've never heard of. Got the credits here. This last battle. Let's see. We got Brad Hessel, who we're familiar with, but Thomas Walczak, Linda Mosca was this battle, Brad Hessel and Lutzen, and then we got Joe Miranda for White Mountain. I don't know who did the original Frybird. But yeah, I kind of liked the way this one played out with that big swing in both directions, the flanking attacks, but with the French realizing, gee, one flank is stronger than the other. A free deployment might be kind of interesting here, especially if it was behind a screen, and then you reveal it, and then you got to make your plans based on that. That could shake this battle up a lot. I think the way that it was set up, the French really do have to attack with this side, but I don't think they really wanted to attack with their left flank, and it actually it felt about right for me to move the way I did. Of course, I screwed up some rules and some counting and stuff. Maybe if the French had actually broken when they were supposed to, the Spaniards would have actually won. It feels like a Spanish victory to me, just because they killed more units, but the leader's worth 10 points. It wasn't that many more units. And what else did we have? Well, we had the breaking, but that wasn't much. All right, I'll be back with a review for the whole series, maybe even vaguely including Brighton.